Somebody say style points because BYU saw Utah's style points and said, let me get some of that as well. We learned a couple things tonight. BYU is a very good football team, and Texas Tech must be a great football team. If they hammered that BYU team that we just saw lay the wood on TCU the way that they did in Lubbock last week. Let's break it down. Let's react to BYU's dominant 44-13 win over TCU to get to 9-1 on the season. This was a whitewashing from the get-go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. It is open for business, the Big 12, well, the world's best Big 12 podcast. I am your host, John Kurtz. Thank you for joining me as you file in. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed, but nightcap to Big 12 football was not what, look, I thought it was going to be the best game of the day. I thought we'd get a nice back and forth affair. No such thing at all. BYU responded as well as you possibly could have to a loss and to taking a frankly pretty embarrassing loss in Lubbock. And I think you could sense that with some of the prideful comments that we saw from guys like Chase Roberts after the game. And I don't say that in like a negative way at all. I think BYU felt very challenged by what happened last week, and they totally stepped up to the plate. Meanwhile, TCU just looks like a team that's fading, just running out of gas here at the end of the season. They blew the end of the Iowa State game last week when they're up 11 in the fourth quarter, and they just got manhandled. I mean, BYU physically dominated this game. That, I think, is where I will start here. BYU scored points on its first 7 drives of the game. 7 drives. It was a 24-point game in the fourth quarter by the time BYU actually had to punt the football. They scored on their first 7 drives. At one point in this game, this was the most insane stat that we saw during the broadcast. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. BYU had run 50 plays, and they had 25 first downs. I mean, like, TCU is not a total pushover defense. That's an insane stat. And BYU is somewhat explosive. Like, they have some ability to do that. But it is interesting, the dichotomy between BYU just not slowly, but consistently moving the ball at will versus Utah against Baylor is just, here's a 65-yard touchdown. Here's a 74-yard touchdown. Here's a 67-yard touchdown, right? It was just big play, like huge play. BYU was just, we're going to do basically whatever we want and demoralize you and move the ball down the field at will the entire game. And could not have come away more impressed with what BYU was able to do. There are a lot of things here. Bachmeier was awesome. And I just feel like everything with the BYU offense just looked a total 180 from what it was in Lubbock. I mean, it was completely in sync. And I know a lot of this is just like Texas Tech's defense is that good. Like, that is one of the things we can take. We have some takeaways about Texas Tech just from this game, watching what BYU was here. But I feel like, Tech game notwithstanding, this gives you the impression that BYU could be really peaking toward the end of the year. Again, I think Tech is just such an outlier within the Big 12, which won't make you feel good as a BYU fan, I guess, about your chances to actually win the Big 12 championship. But this, I think, is the most complete game we've seen BYU play all year. I guess you would hold it up against the Utah win as the most complete game BYU has played all year. LJ Martin was back. He looked very good. 21 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Bear Bachmeier is just blossoming into a total stud. I mean, it's no longer, and Kalani Sitake talked about this throughout the year. You heard him say it at different points. Like, he's getting to the point where he's not really a freshman anymore. He's not a freshman anymore. That dude is absolutely not a freshman anymore at all. He's got control of the offense. He's just got total command. He knows where he's going with the ball. He's making quick decisions. He's putting it on guys really fast. When he needs to run, he's decisive. He takes off. Not only is he pretty speedy, but he can run you over. So he's sturdy. I mean, just what more could you want or ask for in a quarterback? Bear Bachmeier was 23 of 33 for 296 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions today. That's not bad. I mean, at the beginning of the year, Josh Hoover comes in as one of the most hyped quarterbacks in the Big 12. Guy's been putting up unreal stats. Bear Bachmeier is a true freshman that nobody thinks is even going to play this year. And by mid-November, here's Bear Bachmeier completing 70% of his passes for almost 300 yards and a touchdown. And Josh Hoover completes 43% of his passes, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Difference in the game right there at the quarterback position is staggering. It feels to me also like Aaron Roderick is just kind of in his bag right now. Once again, tech game notwithstanding. But he's got that whole kind of like spinner series of stuff that they're doing in the backfield that people have now been copying. The reverses, misdirections, picking spots to run Bear Bachmeier without having to do it too much. Let's look, 10 carries today, 59 yards and a touchdown. By the way, that may be the most impressive play of the night from Bear Bachmeier was his 17-yard touchdown run on that option where he freezes the guy with the option pitch and takes it on that was 3rd and 14. Runs it in for 17 yards and a touchdown. God, I don't know how, if you're somebody else, a fan of somebody else in the rest of the league, and you're looking around at BYU, the way they're playing right now with Bear Bachmeier, and like, dude, wait, hold up. That's their quarterback. They've got that dude as a true freshman quarterback. That's what they're doing. You know, it's not going to make you feel great about your quarterback situation to hold it up against what BYU has right now. The other thing, if we're talking about the most impressive things Bear Bachmeier did tonight, how about the field goal drive right before halftime? You know, I mean, tell me that looks like a true freshman. Not even close, dude. A field goal drive before half with no timeouts. And he got him all the way down for basically a chip shot field goal and even had an opportunity to throw to the end zone once. Like, legit got to look at the end zone to at least throw it up. Unreal. Great execution, making plays, buying time, keeping his eyes downfield. He was awesome. I think defensively, I obviously, like, BYU just in general was the more physical team. TCU doesn't really run the ball much at all, but I mean, today was no different. I guess they wound up with 115 rushing yards very late in the game. I had it taken down at 78. So at one point, you know, when the outcome was well decided, they only had 78 rushing yards, and BYU wound up with 4 sacks. So obviously the front seven did a good job. But the thing that really stood out to me was I thought the secondary played great. I mean, BYU secondary got TCU to the point where you had like a sideline altercation between Josh Hoover and Eric McAllister. Like, they were playing so well that you had Josh Hoover blowing up on his star receiver on the sideline. I mean, if that's not a sign that you are absolutely dominating in the secondary, I don't know what is. That's got to be about the most rewarding thing you could possibly see if you are a secondary. And I mean, like, McAllister got his, but only 4 catches for 107. When they got him the ball, he was pretty good, but there was like one drive. TCU had like one drive there in the middle of the game in that kind of middle 8 range that was pretty good. Everything else just felt like a struggle, felt like a challenge. They're having to kick field goals. Great stuff from the BYU defense. And to me, it was just how many times did Josh Hoover have to scramble around and either pick up, like, you know, he was picking up like 2 or 3 yards on a scramble to the sideline, or he was having to make a play on the run. And sometimes it did work, but it just seemed like every time he dropped back to pass, he's not a guy that really wants to run and scramble a whole bunch. And every time he dropped back to pass, his first couple reads were not there. And he's having to wait, figure something out, make something happen. That's not the way that Josh Hoover wants to play. So, you know, Jay Hill's crew did an excellent job in this game too. Just trying to see, you know, their initial thoughts of the game before we go a little bit more big picture. Yeah, you hold Josh Hoover under 50% passing. obviously, I mean, like the Tanner Wall interception return for a touchdown is just such a very emblematic of this game in general, and it creates the lasting like iconic image of this game, which is his helmet with the grass jammed in the front of it. It's funny to me because when I have seen that before, I associate it with something bad because the last time I remember seeing something like that much grass jammed in somebody's helmet, it was Todd Reesing, former Kansas quarterback, when he got sacked, I believe it was in the end zone. I think it was like a safety right at the end of that '07 when KU and Mizzou were like, was it 1-2 or 2-3? They were both in the top 5 and played each other at Arrowhead Stadium. And into the game, it's like over. And that was like the lasting image for Mizzou fans to make fun of Todd Reesing in Kansas, where he's got the grass all shoved up in his helmet. This was different. It was like that was the badge of honor for Tanner Wall after running that thing back. Impressive 44-yard interception return for a touchdown. And I mean, just the vibes. Could the vibes possibly be any higher in Provo? You know, you had Dave Fleming and Brock Osweiler commenting about how into it the fans were when it's, you know, they're up 44-13 with 44 seconds left, and it's a 4th down, and you're creating multiple false start penalties because TCU can't hear the snap count. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, someone who's been to a couple of big games now the last 2 years in Provo. But it's great to display that, obviously, to the nation, to anybody who's still watching at this point, because BYU played so well, not many people were watching by the end of that game. There wasn't much to watch. Impressive all the way around, man, for BYU. Not a whole lot I can nitpick there. I thought the broadcast crew was sort of spot on at the end of the game, just being like Dave Fleming at one point just said, I'm struggling to find like a single positive out of this for TCU. And obviously, big picture, TCU is a team that expected to compete for a Big 12 championship. Midway through the season, it looked like they could. They've been their own worst enemy at times, blowing a 17-point lead to Arizona State, giving up 2 non-offensive touchdowns to K-State and losing in Manhattan, blowing an 11-point fourth quarter lead to Iowa State. But make no mistake, this was not TCU beating itself. This was TCU playing a team that it was just simply outclassed by from start to finish in this game. Never a moment where you thought BYU did not have this game in complete, firm control, just a vice grip on this game. So, yeah, TCU's piece of this is just the frustration is going to grow with Sonny Dykes ever since beating Michigan and getting to the national championship game. It just feels like it's been a lot of disappointment, a team that has underperformed based on what its talent level is relative to the rest of the Big 12. And this is not going to help that narrative at all, even though BYU is a very good team. I mean, like you're losing to a very, very good team. All right, let's get to some of the super chats here. Appreciate all of you guys. Glenn, what's up, Glenn? Glenn says, what an awesome game. Go Cougs. Very simple. There you go, Glenn. Thank you for your support of the channel. By the way, if you would like to be like Glenn, click the $ below the chat box. That's how you can submit a super chat. Guarantees that your question or comment makes it on the show tonight. But totally free ways to support. Just like the video. Subscribe to the channel. That would be great. Here at Open for Business. We talk college football from a Big 12 perspective all week. You're getting multiple live streams every week. Couple on typically Wednesday and Sunday. And then when games are happening on Saturday, some of these live reaction shows. I'm on all the audio platforms, wherever it is that you find podcasts. If you are listening there, rate and review. That really helps get the podcast discovered by more people. So thank you to everybody who does that. And it's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you're not watching live and you want to submit a question or comment, I will address it on the next show. Garrett says, how are my Red Raiders? Morton looking healthy. Yeah, I still saw Baron Morton limping some today, but the good news is Baron Morton only had to play less than a half because it was 28-2, I think, at the time that Baron Morton actually left. So, yeah, look, get him rest that thing as much as possible. Just you want less snaps, less wear and tear, as much healing time as possible for him right now. So, yeah, Tech looked great. I talked a little more about Tech toward the end of the last video. This is my third video that I've done today, just instant reaction to games that have happened. You will get more tech reaction toward the back end of that last one, Garrett, if you are looking for that. Zach says, watch BYU be underdogs next week. Calling it now. I think it will probably be a close line, but I don't think you're going to see BYU be the dog after Cincinnati lost today. Had Cincinnati won, maybe, and I know what you're getting at, like a lot of the power ratings that you will see out there, which is that's sort of what Vegas runs on. They're going to have a model that they're using internally, all these sports books. They are not really high on BYU, definitely not as high as they are in a team like Utah. And so I get the skepticism and why you would say, hey, that's what's going to happen here too. I don't think it will be quite that bad. Oh, man, if you ask me for I wonder what ESPN FPI says about that. Let's go see. Not that I am holding up FPI as the be-all, end-all by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just looking for some sort of gauge here from somebody. Yeah, it's got it at 60-40 BYU, Cincy. I might tilt that more like 65-35, 70-30 BYU. Cougars just seem like they're in a much better place right now. And if we were going to play the card of like, hey, Cincinnati is going to be fired up and inspired off of a loss and want to prove that wrong, Cincinnati's got everything to play for, first of all, for sure. I mean, they're still in the Big 12 title picture. But if we're buying into, hey, they're going to be really inspired by an embarrassing loss or whatever, I mean, they got punked in front of a national audience with College Game Day in the house and then had a bye week. And after all of that, they came out and lost at home to Arizona. So I don't know that I'm going to buy into that narrative too much this week. And right now it just looks like, Brendan Sorsby is struggling, and nothing against the Arizona defense, but I think the BYU defense is a much better unit. And now Sorsby's got to go up against those guys. Like, I don't know. That sure doesn't sound like a winning proposition to me. Okay. I've got to check FPI tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, probably so. Yeah. More I think about it, I'd probably peg it like 70-30 BYU next week. It's definitely losable. I mean, it is a losable game, but I think this team seems very focused, and more importantly than that, because I know there's been, thank you, MF God there. I'll get to Garrett here in just a second. I think there's been a lot made about like last year's BYU team. It always seems like the narrative from the TV broadcasts is that BYU kind of let the Utah game get them. They didn't respond well to that, and they perhaps were not as focused. They twisted into some narrative about like, Kalani Sitake's worried about staying worried on the present and all that. Guys, I just think the bottom line is like last year's BYU team was not as good as this year's BYU team. When you have a quarterback that's playing the way Bear Bachmeier is playing, as opposed to the limitations that Jake Retzloff had, you can withstand a lot more. You are going to be able to make up for a sluggish start much better than you could have before. You're just going to be able to win more games. It gives you more ways to win games, more game scripts, game flows where you can come out on top, like more margin for error. It's really probably the better way to say that. There's just way more margin for error this year, I think, with BYU, predominantly because of what they have at quarterback. And so I don't think I'm looking at anything like that sort of narrative being something that should or could follow BYU this year. I mean, remember, we going into this like 6-game stretch here, basically to end the season before UCF, everyone was looking at it like, oh man, that's so tough. At worst, BYU is going to go 4-2. I wouldn't buy into any kind of narrative where I'm worried about like BYU's focus next week. Like they know what's on the line. They know everything is in front of them. But I do understand the skepticism, Zach. I do. Garrett, should Texas Tech be top 4? Is there a chance on Tuesday? I think they'll be 5. I don't think they're getting into the top 4, like just because I guess the idea there must be people saying because Texas A&M fell behind by 27 at home to South Carolina before coming back to win. Is that the question as to whether or not they jump up there? I sincerely doubt that you're going to get that. Like, A&M won the game. It was a sick comeback in the second half. I mean, I would not punish Texas A&M for that. I don't think I would. I would still have Tech just a spot behind. It's just your frustration has to be with Shane Beamer and Lenora Sellers. Like, guys, not only did you blow the lead, you got a gift on the 1 yard line from Texas A&M there too, and you still couldn't drive down and get the field goal to win the game. So that's where I think your beef is. But anyway, Garrett, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, my friend. Payson Cougar fan says he's cheering for K-State next week. Go Wildcats. Thank you, Payson Cougar fan. Here's the bad news, though. Not only did K-State play horrible football today, but Jace Brown, K-State's best offensive weapon, easily, got hurt. He's out for the year. Didn't look great. He had a really nice catch on the play in which it happened. Same way kind of that Jaron Bradley got hurt earlier this year for K-State, who was a productive receiver. So they're down that. Austin Romaine, their best defensive player, he's out for the year. Didn't play on Saturday. Obviously, Dylan Edwards is not playing. So K-State just doesn't – the cupboard is – they're down their best pass rusher who's hurt for the year. Like, K-State's beat up. They're very pedestrian right now. I don't see that going very well. But you can cheer for the Cats anyway, Payson Cougar fan. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay. Let's see. Yes, big picture. Okay, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Everybody who's here, I should throw out a plug for the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter as well, ofbnews.com to subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. You get it twice a week for free. You can join 5,400 plus Big 12 fans who are subscribed, and I appreciate all of you who are. So, BYU wants that rematch with Texas Tech. Is it in the bag? I just discussed, I think, the likelihood of winning at Cincinnati. I am pretty confident in this BYU team to get it done. I do think that they are just they can withstand more, even if it's a slow start. How many times have we seen them come back from a slow start on the road? Iowa State, Colorado, like been there, done that. East Carolina, I would even submit to that category. East Carolina, who's 7-3 now, by the way. Shout out to whoever it was that told me about that earlier today. We've seen BYU be able to do that. Brendan Sorsby, I don't know if like broken maybe is a bridge too far, but broken adjacent is what it feels like right now, the way he's played the last two games. And then you should be able to beat UCF. You should be able to beat UCF to finish it off. So I am actually like reasonably confident here in what BYU has. But next week is a huge game. So it's not totally locked up. It's definitely not. I mean, you've got Sharks circling the water there. I'm going to have to mess with the tiebreakers probably tomorrow and see what all that looks like. But Arizona State's still involved, like Cincinnati still involved, Utah still involved. We'll have to see what all that looks like if BYU were to drop that game next week, how much that would throw things into a crazy tiebreaker scenario potentially, which I don't think anybody really truly wants to see that, but that might be the way it winds up going. As far as BYU's at-large case goes, which you've heard me say multiple times today already, this was not a good day at all for the Big 12 on that front. But it does help to get some style points, especially when I think people still have a bit of that BYU narrative stuck in them of like, well, man, so many of those games were really close. Colorado, Arizona. We saw BYU even messing around with West Virginia a bit when they played that game at home. Like, this team's not really that good, and then they went and got pummeled at Texas Tech. I think you have a lot of people still with that stuck in their brain. So to come out and take a team that was 6-3 and just thrash them from start to finish, that helps. That counts as some style points. It does. Plus, this is not something I think anybody is paying attention to, really. At least anybody that matters, unfortunately. But the Arizona win has aged very well. That has aged very, very well to go win that game in Tucson. Also, that's got to be a maddening one for Arizona fans who could be still involved in the Big 12 title race had you won that game which they definitely seem to have in hand late with the double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. But I don't know. It could be Arizona could be a ranked win. I guess I say nobody's going to notice. Maybe the College Football Playoff Selection Committee will notice. Maybe Mark Harlan, who is now the Big 12's rep out there, will notice, and you can get Arizona ranked. Since he obviously is going to drop out, maybe you can squeak Arizona into the back end of the College Football Playoff rankings and give BYU a nice little kiss with that if they had that win to go along with their Utah win to bolster the resume. I did see, well, it was on the broadcast. If you're talking about chances to get to the Big 12 title game, as far as the earlier conversation, is it locked up? No, but ESPN gave BYU a 70% chance to get to the Big 12 title game. That was on the broadcast. That was updated like by the minute, they said. They've got it at a 70% chance that BYU is going to be playing in the Big 12 championship game. Texas Tech was like up above 90%. I mean, Texas Tech, in all likelihood, is going to be there. They're going to have to take care of business at West Virginia to ensure that, and that is it. So that's where we sit, guys. It is late. It is past 1 a.m. here in the Central Time Zone. So I'm going to scurry off to bed. But thank you all for being here. Please do like the video on your way out if you haven't. Subscribe to the channel on your way out if you haven't. I talk college football from a Big 12 perspective all week here on this channel. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. And you can drop me a line on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4, if you have a question or comment that you want to leave there. If you didn't watch this live, and I will get to it on the next show. I will give you a live show tomorrow after having some time to digest more of this, go a little bit more zoomed out on the weekend. But yeah, hey, it's been a fun day. Glad to talk to you guys multiple times today. Thank you, everybody who has shown up and been here. And I will talk to you all very soon. Take care.